KFGO.
Near side, reskater, shoot, score!
Talking all things from the blue line to the red line.
Breakaway for Kaprizov. He's in. He's scored.
And beyond.
Sure, old-time hockey, like it is sure.
Yeah. Now, you're your hosts, Travis Gunn and Scott Taylor.
From the Nillis law firm South Moorhead. Well, here we are. This is a weather-created issue, and Zoom is an amazing thing, ladies and gentlemen. We get to do stuff from our home base and sound hopefully good doing it, but is indeed the Nillis law firm South Moorhead studio. And Game On Hockey with Scott Taylor, Travis Dunn is on the air, and the man that just got back from the big city, Las Vegas, Nevada, probably dropped a few dollars. We're in a couple of big guys accompanying you home. My good friend Scott Taylor, how you doing, Scott?
I'm doing wonderful. I knew I was coming back into snow, but I wasn't expecting 5 to 9 centimeters tonight overnight.
Okay, speak English here. Speak American. Speaking American down here, buddy.
Okay, oh, sorry. It would be what? 4 or 5 inches?
Yeah. And we've had 9 today, and we had 6 yesterday in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Most of North Dakota is closed. So to you out there that are traveling in this, please be safe, however you are, wherever you are. We do appreciate you tuning in to Game On Hockey, which is every Thursday night at 5:30 with Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn. That will be changing when NFL football goes away for the Thursday night, which 4 more weeks of NFL football. So we'll be going to 6 p.m. on Thursday evenings, but make sure to stay tuned. 49ers and Seahawks, 6:30 for the NFL football game of the week on a Thursday night. But lots of things to talk about, Scott, and we kind of want to get into this. There's a couple of things. We can talk about Ovi. I'll give you the option. We can talk about Ovi and his 800, or we can talk about Ryan Reeves and the body that he shook quite massively in the Detroit versus the Minnesota Wild game last evening.
I was shocked that there wasn't a 5-minute major on that one. Not because I think he did anything, but usually that's the way referees approach those. I suspect somebody in New York is going to talk to him about it. I don't know what would be said, but the way the NHL is today, the fear of head injuries, Hronek got it right in the face, and he was cut. And that was a borderline one for me. I'm old school, and when a guy's got his head down and he gets hammered, that's okay. But the NHL also has some serious CTE problems, just like football does.
Yeah,
I think they have to be concerned about that shot to the head. Now, 9 million Minnesota Wild fans are going to yell at me and say, "Oh, he hit him in the shoulder." Well, he didn't really. I guess first point of contact was the shoulder, but you don't cut a guy's face by checking him in the shoulder. So that was a little iffy, but look, that's why they got him. That's why he's there. Yep. He's there to create space for guys like Kaprizov and Eriksson and Zuccarello and these guys who can score goals, Boldy. That's why they got him. It's part of the reason they won last night going away. I mean, Detroit's not a great team, but they're a better team. They're an improving hockey team. Every time I watch them play, they get better and better. They don't have a lot of goal scorers, and that hurts them. But that's not the worst hockey team in the NHL. Close, but not the worst. And Ryan Reeves plays on that team to open space and get guys to be a little bit afraid, to make sure that when he's out there, he's not going to score much for you either, as we saw in that empty net.
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt.
When he shot wide from a place where most defensemen throw it in the middle of the goal. But the reality is that's why he's on the team. He's there to create space. He did his job. Referees will do what referees do. I'm really, really old school. I think one of the problems in the NHL today is that if officials called the game to protect players, as they said they wanted to do in the 2000s and early 2010s, to protect small guys, give them more space, they were going to call these things tight. The reality is they're not doing that at all. They're not doing much to protect hockey players. So I go back to the days of Colt Noor and Zenon Konopka. Teams that have players who can do that and take a shot or two at the bad guy on the other team, that opens up more space for players because the officials aren't doing that anymore. And that's why Ryan Reeves is in Minnesota, and he did his job last night.
You are listening to Game On Hockey on the Mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM, again, every Thursday evening at 5:30. And Scott Taylor, my partner in crime, describing it very eloquently. You know, this Minnesota Wild hockey team now seems to have a bit of a different attitude, and I think it comes right from Ryan Reeves.
Oh, I do. That's a team that has no reason to be afraid of anything. Now, pro hockey players aren't afraid. That's a bad statement. I have misspoken. Let me say, when pro hockey players that are skilled players play against really tough teams, you will quite often watch them not do the things they would do against teams that play the way they do. So if the Minnesota Wild played, say, the Pittsburgh Penguins, you would see a wide open hockey game, lots of skill, a limited amount of hitting. But a big, strong team like Winnipeg, for instance, or Calgary, that has a lot of bangers, you want a Ryan Reeves out there because when they come to town, he can pound on them. And then that opens the space for the players who are more skilled. But when players don't have that guy, they've got nobody to watch their back. So they don't take the chances they might take if there's a guy there who's going to say, you touch him, I'll take your teeth out.
Mm-hmm.
Which Colton Orr once did to Alexander Ovechkin. And guess what? He took a tooth out later in the game.
Yeah,
so the reality is you need a guy on the team who will stand up for the skilled players. Now Minnesota has one. And you could tell by the smile on Dean Evason's face in the post-game press conference last night, I think he likes having Ryan Reeves in his lineup. I don't think he's going to expect him to score 40 goals. But his presence makes those other guys play better. And I thought Minnesota dominated that game from start to finish last night, and that hit had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, you know what? In the presence of really good guests make our show great in each every week. And this week, no different this week. We have the commissioner of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. Scott, we're going to talk about opportunities for, well, there's 60 Americans playing right now in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. The opportunity is there. The NAHL is a great option. The USHL is a great option. So many good options. But we're opening the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. And Commissioner Surratt joins us to share that information tonight.
Yeah, I want to talk to him about their latest signing. The Niverville Nighthawks just signed a player out of the North American League, another American player in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. So we'll talk to Kevin about that signing. There are more players coming up all the time, more opportunities for players to get a chance to get that scholarship. And tonight is a huge night in Winnipeg. Cole Smith is back in town. Most of the Steinbach Pistons are out at that one. Cole Smith was a player who came out of northern Minnesota. His dad had put away a pile of money to make sure he got to college, and he didn't get the scholarship. So somebody suggested go up and play for Paul Dick in Steinbach. He was a big kid, not a real fast kid. He went up and played 2 years for Paul Dick, and Steinbach was outstanding. Got about a half ride, maybe a quarter ride to UND. And of course, his dad went, well, I just saved a pile of money.
Yeah, he did.
So he plays 4 years at UND and ends up being the captain, signs out of UND with the Nashville Predators, and he's in town tonight playing in the National Hockey League for the Nashville Predators against the Winnipeg Jets. And that's one of the great stories of opportunities exhausted in the United States or in your area. Mm-hmm. And having the Manitoba Junior Hockey League to take you to that next step. And certainly Cole Smith took advantage of that, and now he's in the NHL.
Absolutely is. And by the way, we are at the Nilles Law Firm Studios, South Moorhead, Minnesota, is where I live across the river from Fargo. And it's a good thing they're licensed in Minnesota, but established in the early 1900s, the Nilles Law Firm provides legal services in more than 10 areas of practice, including business and corporate law, estate planning, wills and trust, probate, commercial litigation, adoption services, as well as real estate. A division of Nilles Law Firm is Northern Title, which provides complete closing and escrow services along with title insurance policies for all types of real estate transactions in North Dakota, as well as, snowy Minnesota. Call Nilles Law Firm at 701-237-5544 or look them up on the World Wide Web at nilleslaw.com. And of course, our second guest after we finish with Commissioner Surratt of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League will be Nick Oliver, the head coach of the Fargo Force of the United States Junior Hockey League, a place that's giving great opportunities for players to take that next step. In his first year coaching this particular hockey team, looking at the statistics, the team's 9-2 on the road. Their record is much better on the road than at home. And we have to ask them the question, how are they doing that?
Every rink is the same now. I grew up at a time, you're too young to remember this, but I grew up at a time, well, maybe you're old enough.
Yeah.
I grew up at a time when, in the National Hockey League, for instance, the Boston Garden was a different size than the Olympia Stadium, and the Olympia Stadium was a different size than Maple Leaf Gardens, and Maple Leaf Gardens was a couple of feet different than the Chicago Forum in the old days, the Chicago Stadium. The game was different then. Home teams had an advantage. For the last 45 years, rinks are pretty much the same. Yep. 200 by 85. They're the same everywhere.
Yep.
And you talk to any player, and they'll say, first of all, being on the road brings the team closer together.
Yep.
Bond, you get closer with your guys. It's you against the world. And number two is, after a minute of the game, you're in the same box as you're in at home. There may be a board that's different. The puck comes off differently, but you'll figure that out quickly enough. And if you survive the first 5 minutes of a game, most hockey players they don't hear the crowd. They're just down there
playing the game
on the same ice surface. So there's so many teams that play well on the road. Winnipeg is a team in the NHL, 8-4 on the road. Good in the road. They're as good in the road as they are at home. And there's a lot of NHL teams that can say that now.
Well, and one thing we can say, we got one of the greatest producers out there, and that's Eric Johnson. He's running the board tonight to keep us on the straight and narrow. Our guests, Commissioner Surratt and Nick Oliver, will be joining us shortly. What we'll do right now is take a quick break, and Eric will throw us to a break. And when we come back, we'll have the commissioner of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, Commissioner Surratt, on board to talk about that very issue, the opportunities that are north or of the border. You are listening to Game on Hockey with Scott Taylor. He's Scott Taylor. I'm Travis Dunn. Eric Johnson on the board. We'll take a break. When you come back, some more great hockey conversation on a Thursday evening, a snowy Thursday evening, no matter where you are in the Red River Valley, whether it's Winnipeg, Grand Forks, Fargo, or farther south. You are listening to Game on Hockey from the Nilles Law Firm studio. We'll be back after these commercial messages.
Hockey, Scott Taylor, Travis Dunn. It's Thursday night in beautiful downtown South Moorhead, beautiful downtown Winnipeg, beautiful downtown Fargo. Everything is beautiful and Christmas-like today. I drove back from the airport this afternoon, and Winnipeg looks like a winter wonderland. And I'm sure the Fargo-Moorhead area is exactly the same. And because it all looks like a winter wonderland, and it's Christmas time, it means that Jarrell's Hockey World is the place for everything you need to make Christmas perfect for your favorite hockey player or fan. Jarrell's has knit beanies, Bauer mystery mini sticks, any mini stick for that matter. Folks, Jarrell's has it all. The best hockey sticks in the game, all of the best protective equipment bags, even nets for road hockey or the backyard rink. And Jarrell's has Bauer and CCM clothing, plus everything you'll need to fill those stockings. Skate guards, laces, tape, wax, pucks, even stick handling balls. And how good would Travis and I have been with stick handling balls? But hey, if you can't think of one item your hockey player would love, pick up a gift card, let her decide what she'd love from Jarrell's. In business for 50 years and the 2021 U.S. Bauer Retailer of the Year, and it's right here in our own backyard. Jarrell's Hockey World, 1004 South Washington Street in Grand Forks. Call 701-775-0553 and at us at Jarrell's Hockey. We have a great guest, a guest that we should have on more often and should have had on earlier. The commissioner of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, Kevin Surrett. Kevin, good evening. I want to talk to you about so many things, but I want to congratulate you. I see the Niverville Nighthawks signed another American player just this week.
Yeah, they're like many teams. There's no secret. There's very good players in the US, and the more elite US players we have in our league, the better. You know, it's been neat to see. It's been growing year after year, and I think the quality of player coming from the US has been growing. So, you know, to see a new franchise also using that market as a development pool, you know, I think that's great. When
you went to kind of this, now I don't know how long this rule has been in existence. You're 6 players per team, correct? Is that the import rule?
Yep, that's correct.
When did you start that? What's the story behind that, and why was 6 the number?
You know what? To be honest, I'm not sure when it came in. It's across Canada. It's a Hockey Canada regulation as well as 6 imports, and obviously an import is only a US player. So European players aren't eligible to play in Canada other than in the CHL. So how they got to 6, you know, I honestly can't tell you, but it's a number that I think is fair. Obviously, we got to take into consideration that we are a league based in Manitoba, so we got to provide development opportunities for our Manitoba players. But in building those high quality organizations and teams, obviously there's a ton of US players, and I think that's, you know, 20 years ago it was different, where now there is a ton of amazing hockey being played in the US. So, you know, the more of those players we can get looking at our league as a stepping stone, the better.
And then when you look at opportunities, Cole Smith, by the way, this is Travis Dunn, Scott Taylor on the mighty 790 KFJ and 104.7 FM. Kevin Surrett, the commissioner of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, joins us. Cole Smith's in town tonight with the Nashville Predators, a graduate of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, a young man that came from the US looking for an opportunity. Kind of the poster child, I would anticipate, for a great advertising campaign for the Manitoba Junior Hockey League to come south of the border.
Yeah, we've actually promoted Cole quite a bit over the years. He exactly right. He's a poster boy. It's a player that, you know, the opportunities didn't present themselves, or it was an opportunity he didn't feel comfortable with his options in the US, and he took a chance to come to the MJHL and the Steinbach Pistons. And, you know, credit to him. He's a player that just worked hard and got better year after year. And, you know, he's exceeded expectations at every step he's taking. So it's amazing to see where he's at. And that's credit to him and his family, but also, you know, to the Steinbach Pistons were a big part of that. And playing in the MJHL gave him that opportunity. So it is a great story.
Here's a guy who finishes high school, and you're right, he didn't get the opportunities he was hoping for. played in Steinbach and ended up getting those opportunities, and now he's in the National Hockey League. Your league also produces players for other leagues that are a step up. Manitoba player, and I'm friends with the family. Aiden Ziprick just signed in Lethbridge, I believe. Another player who was from the MJHL to the Western League. And there's all those scholarship opportunities that come up, and the list is getting greater and greater and greater. I remember, and I know you do too, when everybody said, oh, go to the BC Junior League. That's where you'll get a scholarship. That's now not as true as it used to be, because there are more players from the MJ going to the US and playing D1 hockey.
Yeah, no, I think it's, it's something we've worked very hard on the last 5 or 6 years is changing that image and that perception. And obviously, and at the league level and team level is really bringing back the focus to development and advancing players. And in the MJHL, any advancement, that's a positive. We're a development league. If it's NCAA, if it's U Sports, if it's major junior, which is, we consider the USHL and the Western Hockey League, that's what we're here for. We're here to give players an opportunity to develop on and off the ice and advance to higher levels of hockey. We're not going to dictate which levels they go to. That's a personal choice. That's a family choice, and whatever they feel most comfortable with. But we want to give them that opportunity to develop and get better and have those opportunities to advance to higher levels, which I mentioned earlier. So it's not a single path league. It is a development league, but there's many paths that players can go to from our league now.
And you look at the success over the years. By the way, you're listening to Game on Hockey on the Mighty 790 KFGO 104.7. Scott Taylor, Travis Dunn on a beautiful Thursday night. Snowbound. A lot of people. Please be safe out there wherever you're going. But you look at this, the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. I look back at the year that I played, 1975-76 with the St. Boniface Saints. Then walked on at University of North Dakota and played a little hockey, had a little success after that. A couple of NCAA champions, Perry Nakanishi from the Dauphin Kings, myself from St. Boniface, won a national championship. Do you guys, does the league keep track of graduates who've gone on to win national championships? I think Bobby Joyce might have been in the Manitoba Junior for a while too, Scott. But it's not something that's publicized, I don't think, enough to give the league the credibility that it deserves so much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I think, quite honestly, I think that's an area that we have to, get stronger at is our historical, like our statistician has historical stats, but I do agree that that's not something we promote enough, because once you start going back through the years, there's been a lot of amazing accomplishments that, get lost over the years. So, I mean, internally as a league office, that is something we have discussed is how do we market that, and how do we promote, those past successes? And, another part is just reconnecting with our alumni. The MJHL has an amazing alumni group, from, you think about all the years past from all the teams. That's just something that we haven't been able to really, the last few years, just haven't had the time to dig into it, to be quite honest. But it is on our radar right now to really start connecting the alumni with the current MJHL as it is right now.
People may not know, you played at the University of Manitoba, and then went off and played pro for how many, 13, 14 years?
10 years.
Yeah, and not only in North America, but also across the pond. You played in, Germany and England? Is that correct? Am I right there?
Yeah, well, I played 2 years in the United States, so I was like everyone else. My goal was to play in the NHL, and I got close. I played in the American Hockey League, and I played in the East Coast Hockey League. So I went up and down for a few years, and then I got married, and we got an opportunity to sign a contract in Germany. And we went to have 1 year of fun overseas, and we ended up staying for 8. So we loved it. Hockey has been my whole life. It still is. We played 5 years in Germany, and we played 3 years in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And my daughter was born in Germany, and my oldest daughter, my second daughter, Molly, was born in Belfast. And I was lucky enough in Belfast during my last season to take my MBA and graduated with distinction. So, that's a focus where, for me, hockey and education are two pillars. Hockey's given me a lot. So with this role, I wanted to get back into hockey at the executive, the management level, and really help players, have the opportunity to experience the life that I did.
But
So
now
we've
you're in a
been,
situation where you're starting to understand your own coaches in your own Manitoba Junior Hockey League because you're back behind the bench again. Congratulations on your victory this weekend in Regina, Coach Surrett.
yeah, it's full circle. It's full circle. There's a lot of nights driving home with my daughter after a game, and I'm talking to her, and I'm just remembering back to me having those conversations with my dad. And but it's great. It's a nice change of pace, to be perfectly honest. It's awesome to, as much my whole life has been in the men's game, but it's amazing to be in the female side of hockey. Amazing girls. They just work hard, they listen, they have fun. So it's been a new experience for me, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
But so
Well-
people know, this is a U11 All-Star team, correct?
It's U11. It's a top level for their age group.
Yeah,
Well,
very good.
congratulations on your victory, Coach.
Well, once again, we
Thanks.
proved that the people in the game is what makes the game special, Scott, and good leadership leads to growth opportunities lead to opportunities for youngsters to get south of the border, wherever they decide they want to go to follow their hockey dreams. And Kevin Surrett, we sure appreciate you joining us, the commissioner of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. We will have these conversations again, because again, a graduate of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. And if you're on YouTube Live, you see my jersey behind me, my UND Fighting Sioux jersey, of course,
Yeah.
and national championship stuff back there somewhere as well. So we're very proud graduate of the University of North Dakota, but also the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. We'll have this conversation again. Happy to keep promoting, happy to give information to youngsters down here looking for a place to go to follow their dreams. And thanks for joining Scott and me on a blustery Thursday night, wherever you may be.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you guys having me on, and anytime just send me an email, and as long as it works for me, I'm happy to jump on, and I appreciate all your efforts down there in promoting the MJHL.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Scott, there again, once again, we proved there's opportunities, and that's what we keep trying to do each and every week, whether it be Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, whether it be Manitoba Junior Hockey League, USHL, NAHL, the opportunities that sometimes that are overlooked right in your own backyard.
I have a very good friend named Dean Court. And years ago, Dean Court, he's been in hockey his whole life and runs the Jets development program at the Hockey for All Center, which used to be the Iceplex in West Winnipeg. For the longest time, the only thing he thought about was a player went from the AAA U18 to the Manitoba Junior League to the Western Hockey League.
Yep.
And when his son, Zach, who was quite a good player, was not drafted by a Western Hockey League team, Dean didn't know what his son would do. And his son got online and found by himself, nobody had ever mentioned it to him before, there's a thing called the NCAA Division I.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up at Alaska, and now he's in the East Coast League with the Rapid City Rush. But it's because he had to do his own work that he found out what his other options were. I hope here we can help kids realize that there isn't just one option. There isn't just you go to the NAHL after high school and then the USHL and then NCAA, or you're a great player and you go straight to the NCAA and maybe you wallow on the bench because you're still young. The reality is there are all sorts of ways to get to your goal if you're prepared, as Cole Smith was, to put in the work, become a better hockey player. Those opportunities exist for US and Canadian players on both sides of the border. But when Nick Oliver comes on tonight, I do want to talk to him about the fact that Canadian players historically have had a really difficult time adapting to the USHL. And I want to know what the difference is in the game. You know, there's the Jaden Perron right now in Chicago. Last year, Adam Ingram, who just had a goal against UND from St. Cloud.
Yep.
They were able to play well in the USHL, but a lot of players have gone to the USHL and found basically a dead end because it's not the style they play. And I want to talk to Nick about that style and what the difference in the hockey is.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll have that opportunity in a few minutes. You're listening to Game on Hockey in the Mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM on a snowy Thursday night, wherever you are, from Winnipeg to, well, probably Sioux Falls, South Dakota at this point. By the way, all the highways in North Dakota are basically closed. So you have to stay inside and listen to the radio, by the way, and also stay tuned. 6:30, 49ers and Seahawks will kick the ball and play a little football in the National Football League. We'll take a break. When we come back, the head coach of the United States Junior Hockey League team based in Fargo, the Fargo Force, Nick Oliver, will join us, and Scott will ask that very question. What is the difference and why are they struggling? You're listening to Game on Hockey from the Nilles Law Firm studio on the mighty 790 KFGO. Game on Hockey on a Thursday night, wherever you are. I hope you're safe out there, driving carefully as you can possibly drive. However, driving carefully sometimes doesn't get you the success you want to wherever you want to get going. So be very careful out there on a blustery North Dakota, Manitoba, South Dakota, wherever you are, evening. I want to make sure to thank our sponsors. Each and every week we do this show all winter long, talking to great guests like our upcoming guest, Nick Oliver, the head coach of the Fargo Force of the USHL. Thanks to Nilles Law Firm, the Golf Center in Grand Forks, Ralph Engelstad Arena, the Sioux Shop in Ralph Engelstad Arena, Dave Noah, Remax Legacy, Jarrell's Hockey World, and Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. Without those sponsorships, we don't get to do this each and every week. And Scott and I just have a blast doing it. It gets us through the winter, although he was in Las Vegas until about 3 o'clock today. So he's been getting through the winter relatively nicely. This segment brought to you by the Sioux Shop in the Ralph Engelstad Arena. You know, you can go online and do your Christmas shopping at siouxshop.com. So you had a great selection of jerseys, quarter zips, hoodies, and more. Also featuring UND football, basketball, volleyball, and soccer t-shirts everything you want, hats, caps, stickers for helmets, whatever you want. They have it all at the Sioux Shop. And of course, leading up to the North Dakota versus U.S. National Under-18 team, Saturday, New Year's Eve, 4 p.m. start. It's youth hockey night. Tickets on sale at the RAA box office and Ticketmaster, starting at just $20. And myself and Tim Hennessy will be on the call for that game, as it'll be a 3-week span after that the UND will be home 3 weeks in a row. So it'll be a busy time driving back and forth to work with Tim Hennessy and enjoying each and every minute of it. And with that, we open the gate. We let the coach of the Fargo Force in, Nick Oliver, and Scott Taylor is just itching to ask you some very serious questions, Nick. So be prepared to answer them.
I'm ready. Thanks for having me on.
You got it.
Hi, Nick. I don't think it's that serious.
No, I know. I just throw it out there.
One question is, I want the coach's perspective on road winning. You guys are the road warriors. And we were talking earlier about teams more and more, certainly at the higher levels of the game, from the USHL all the way up through the NCAA, are playing better on the road, especially good teams. What is it about this thing where in the old days you always wanted to play at home, but now so many teams are playing well on the road? I suggested it's team bonding and the fact that all the rinks are the same, but maybe you have a different perspective.
No, that's a really good point, Scott. And you brought a funny or an interesting lineup, Road Warriors, and that was started before I even got to Fargo. But I guess that's been a little bit of a theme, even going back the past few years. Is it's something the coaching staff has instilled, and when we go on the road, that's what the guys call themselves, the Road Warriors. So it's a little bit of a mindset and a little bit of a mentality, knowing that it's typically more difficult to play on the road, and with travel mixed in and different things like that. I think more and more, especially at our level and our age of kids, I've found it's you almost have less distractions on the road too, right? And you have less to worry about. Mom and dad traveling in to watch, girlfriend coming in to watch, leaving tickets, different things. When you're on the road, it's your group, and you're with your best friends, you're with your teammates, and you mentioned the team bonding piece, and you're bonding on the bus, you're bonding in the hotel, and it really almost simplifies things for the players, and I think sometimes that can help.
You go on the road, and the simplification is one thing, but your players don't hear the crowd anymore after about a minute into the game. Isn't that right? It's just, you're playing in the same space that you would play at home. It's not like the old days where a rink in some town might be 10 feet shorter at one end or not as wide, but everything's uniform now. It's all the same building. So once you get on the ice, it's how good you can be that night, right?
Absolutely. And I think, at the college level, you deal with maybe a little bit more crowd involvement and momentum swings. Obviously, the Ralph Engelstad Arena being one of those buildings, Western Michigan being a building like that, St. Cloud State, where I'm coming from, was a building like that for sure. So you get a little bit more of that in college, but at the junior level, you're right. It's you block that out, and when the puck drops, you try to play, get off to a good start, obviously, and on the road, and that's important. But I think, stressing and emphasizing even more so on the road, you have to be disciplined. You have to play a disciplined game. You can't start chasing the game too soon when you're in someone else's building, and try to limit the ability for the crowd to get into those games, and for a home team to grab momentum. So I think you're spot on with that, Scott.
That's the voice of Nick Oliver, the head hockey coach of the United States Junior Hockey League Fargo Force hockey team, joining Scott Taylor and myself on Game on Hockey on the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM. You talked about the early success of your team. You're a first-year coach with this group. A young man named Max Swanson, 16 years old, 7 goals, 16 assists, your second leading scorer. Not very often do 16-year-olds step into a league like the USHL and make an impact. He has done so very, very early in his career, hasn't he?
No, he's been outstanding, Travis, and I'd be lying to you if I thought, at this point in the year he'd be where he's at. Just from a standpoint of, like you just said, it's very hard for 16-year-olds to make that transition, and not just make the transition, but have an immediate high impact on a team like Mac has. But the more I've gotten to be around Mac and just watch how he goes about his day to day and the type of person he is, I'm not all that surprised anymore. And he's extremely focused, extremely competitive, loves working on his game, loves finding ways to get better. But if you watch Mac play, he's extremely gifted with hockey sense and skill and those things. But you just watch him away from the puck, and you watch him on face-offs. His knees are bent. He's intense. You watch him just almost in every area of his game, and he loves it. And he loves winning, and he loves competing, and he loves finding ways to impact the game in other ways, even when the puck isn't on his stick. So he's a fun player to work with. He's a big part of our group, and obviously he's been a big piece of our success so far this year.
He came to you from Alaska. Are players in Alaska getting better, or is he a rarity?
I think they're getting better, and I think we actually have 4 players with Alaska ties on our roster right now. You have Mac from Anchorage, Brett Link, Camden Shasby, and Reed Kahn, whose father Rob Kahn played. I think he grew up in Alaska or in Anchorage. So we got 4 guys with ties up there, and I think the midget programs up there do a good job. The youth programs do a good job, and I think now it helps with the 2 North American Hockey League teams that are up there, and obviously with Anchorage now being back in the Division I mix, you have 2 Division I teams. So I think those players at a younger age are still exposed to high levels of hockey, and they get to see and learn and chase it a little bit, right? And I think all those midget teams, they travel down to the lower 48 quite a bit as well at a young age. So they get to play the best teams from Detroit and Chicago. And so they get exposed to some of that higher level hockey as well. So it's we're happy with the Alaska guys we have on our roster. I can tell you that much. They've been good players.
I've always had this odd feeling about the USHL. It's a league that is extremely fast and is a great stepping stone for players to go to the NCAA and now more and more to the National Hockey League. It's also a league that has been very, very successful for American players. Canada does well against the U18 team, against the U20 team, the World Junior, the World Under 18. But Canadian players don't thrive in the USHL like they do in the Canadian Hockey League. Just from Manitoba alone, I can think of Adam Ingram and Jaden Perron and not many more that have done real well in the USHL. Is there a difference in the game? Is there something just different about it than there is in Canadian hockey at the Western Hockey or Ontario Hockey League level?
That's a good question, Scott. And, I got a chance to, in my time at St. Cloud State, recruit quite a few players from Canada and from Manitoba in particular, and had a chance to get to know Adam Ingram and watch his path. And, even go back to Reese Gaber playing in Dubuque. And there's been some really good players that come down. It's hard for me to say that again, Scott.
A lot. The players who play there are good hockey players.
Right.
There's not any middle of the road guys. You don't have a lot of third liners.
Right. No, it's a good point. And, I haven't seen a lot of CHL hockey, Scott, up north of the border. So I can't necessarily speak for those leagues. I know they have a lot of high draft picks. And I think comparing it to a little bit of our league, I just think the USHL is so deep right now. And I think the CHL, again, not speaking for every team in every league, but I feel like sometimes those leagues can be very top heavy. And each team has 2, 3, 4 really, really high end players. Where I feel like in the USHL, we have a big middle. And I think that's why the percentage of American born players that are playing in the NHL has continued to increase. And you see a lot of that. And I just think the U.S. has done a great job of developing more players and more quality players. And I can tell you, when we get to our summer training camps, our tryout camp and our fall camp, we have a lot of hard decisions to make. And it's usually splitting hairs between a lot of really good players. And there isn't, a huge drop off there. So I think that's a big credit to obviously how the U.S. and what they're doing at the youth levels is paying off.
Well, Coach Oliver, we sure appreciate you jumping on board on a beautiful Thursday night. I know you got a youngster to go probably take care of and do some playing with and help help burn off a little energy to go to bed early tonight. But we appreciate you joining us. Fargo Force tomorrow night, hosting Sioux Falls in Sioux Falls on Saturday. Safe travels on Saturday. Hopefully the weather cooperates and we can carry on this great thing called the USHL hockey season. Appreciate you joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great night and great weekend.
You bet.
Thanks, Nick.
That's,
Best of luck.
Nick Oliver, head coach of the Fargo Force, the United States Junior Hockey League, tomorrow night, hosting Sioux Falls. So make sure to get out to the rink. I'm sure by then it'll be all shoveled out and good parking and so on. We'll take a quick break. You are indeed listening to Game on Hockey from on the mighty 790 KFJ on 104.7 FM. After this break, we'll talk a little Pilot Mound hockey, a little hard to travel. We'll discuss that opportunity and what's going on up there right now, but not much travel in the upper Midwest. You are listening to Game on Hockey with Scott Taylor. I'm Travis Dunn from the Nillis Law Firm studio on the mighty 790 KFGO.
You're clear, fellas.
Hi, Gordon.
What time we out?
Hey guys.
We'll be out at 27.
Okay,
I'll pop my video up so I can count you down.
gotcha.
So you, yeah, I'll turn my video on once we get there, and then I can count you down to the final. But yeah, 27, right on the dot.
Okay, and Scott, you can do the
I'll bring it back and do golf.
golf center.
When I was in the Cosmo watching the soccer game yesterday,
Oh yeah.
I'm sitting beside a young man, probably in his mid-30s. Turns out he played on the Canadian Tour and played in the Manitoba Open.
You're everywhere.
Tom Moore.
Hmm.
Now he's a financial advisor in San Antonio. As he said, there's not a lot of money on the mini tours.
No, gosh, no. No, yeah, I got that right.
He did it for 8 years and was virtually broke, and decided that maybe the dream of beating Tiger and
So many good golfers out there.
Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth was probably not within the cards for him.
Oh, man, yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
It's a hard, and it turns out he's a lefty, which makes it more difficult.
Did you make some money in Vegas?
I always make money.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, good for you.
I remember. Welcome back to beautiful downtown South Moorhead, South Winnipeg, Eastern Fargo, on a night when most of the roads are closed, and they don't want Travis to go out and be another dangerous driver on the snow-covered roads of North Dakota and Minnesota. You're listening to Game on Hockey. Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn on a snowy Thursday in December. And I'm looking at your golf clubs behind you.
Yep.
You mentioned that I just got back from Vegas this afternoon. Yesterday during the soccer match, football match, kickball match, I was sitting beside a young guy and we got into a conversation. Turns out he had played at the Manitoba Open on the Mackenzie Canadian Golf Tour about 10 or 12 years ago. His name was Tom Moore, and was a very, very good player until he realized that you don't make a lot of money on those mini tours.
No doubt whatsoever there.
Especially playing with the big guys.
unless you're selling golf clubs.
Exactly. And if you're selling golf clubs, it's time to move the game indoors. It's wintertime. There's snow everywhere and more coming. But the Golf Center has a complete line of golf simulators and hitting mats, nets, training aids. It's all in stock and it'll all help you get better. They have Garmin R10, Bushnell Launch Pro, and SkyTrack. It can help keep your swing in its groove all winter long. Looking for the perfect Christmas gift for the golfer in your life? The Golf Center can help. A full inventory of bags, FootJoy golf shoes, golf balls, as well as clothing to look great on the course or in front of your new golf simulator that you are working.
Yep.
Listen, Santa Shops at the Golf Center. Give Brian and the guys a call or stop by the Golf Center at 3001 South Columbia in Grand Forks. Call them at 701-775-0019. And Travis, we have my favorite guest of the week, the young man, former Jets goaltender, and a time gone by and an era long since past. But still the goaltending whisperer, the man from Goaltenders, Gord Tummelson. Welcome, Gord. I imagine you're not driving to Pilot Mound today.
Nobody's going to Pilot Mound or out of Pilot Mound. And I do want to add too that golf does happen in Winnipeg as well as in Grand Forks. I played this morning, played Sea Island Resort in the basement of Shooter's Restaurant and Golf Emporium in north end of Winnipeg. So there you go.
How did you play? Sea Island?
I played poorly, but you know what? It was beautiful, sunny and warm. And then we went outside afterwards and started the car.
Well, talk about no travel.
There you
Teams
go.
are supposed to be in Blaine, Minnesota. Teams are supposed to be heading south of the border. Teams are supposed to be heading into Saskatchewan. Obviously, nobody's going anywhere, right?
We lost all three series of games. The good news is we were going to be in Blaine, Minnesota for 6 games, our U18 boys and U17 boys, 3 games each. However, canceled, but would have been great. And we've been there every year along the way. So it's a great opportunity for people to see our organization in action and, of course, see our players in action as well. So it's a great recruitment tool one way or the other. So that helps us. And we didn't get to Saskatoon as well up in Saskatchewan. They had to cancel that as going on. So we're going to be doing some practices on the weekend. And the girls team, though, is going to be playing 2 games, one against RHA and one against St. Mary's in Pilot Mound, assuming the roads will be clear by then.
When you get to go to the United States with these this Pilot Mound team or any of the Pilot Mound teams, you mentioned it's a great opportunity to recruit. There is an opportunity for good young players from Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Montana to come to Pilot Mound and play hockey at the Academy, one of the great places to play in North America, small town, great rink, and now great dorms coming.
Yeah, we've got new dorms, got a $3 million building and open up just after the new year. 6 days on the ice every week, unless you're playing games somewhere else. So we travel to Dallas, to Minnesota, to Detroit. We travel all through Western Canada. And so our players are seen where our organization is seen. We see them. It's a great two-way deal. If players are looking for something a little extra and different from what they're used to getting now in their home cities or towns, we have it in Pilot Mound. Great coaching, and look forward to having anybody. We have a number of American players every year in our 80-player organization right now. And so we enjoy having kids up from everywhere, California through to Maine this year.
And lots of ice time. And how many games per season do they get to play?
We look at 60 games. Yeah, they're not. Well, two games you play, and there's 58 that you would have played if you didn't have blizzards. But yeah, about 60 games a year is what we were able to boast. And all of those games are on hockey TV or some sort of TV somewhere. Usually it's hockey TV. And so coaches and scouts and all kinds of people get an opportunity to see our players and do their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gord, wherever you're going, be safe out there. And hope the snow gets off the roads, the wind can stop blowing, but that won't happen until about April probably. So we just have to work our way through this, don't we?
There you go. Well, yeah, snow plows are a good thing, and they do work in Manitoba. I got to give a lot of credit to our maintenance people on roads. They do a great job in the cities and on the roads and the highways. So thank you.
Yeah, big credit to MDOT, a big credit to North Dakota Department of Transport. They do a great job of keeping the highways safe and making sure they're closed and keeping people safe as well. Have a great rest of your evening and enjoy the snow. It makes it look awful pretty and Christmassy, doesn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to have no snow. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gordy. Go Buffaloes.
Well, as we put another one in the books, great guest again, Nick Oliver. He was able to answer that question. The talent level is just getting so deep in the USHL. We had, opportunity with the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. There are opportunities out there that in my youth, I never would have imagined, Scott.
Well, as we discussed, people for the longest time didn't know that there was more than AAA U18,
Yep.
Manitoba Junior League or NAHL, Western League or USHL, NCAA, minor pro. There are a million ways to get to your dream. You just got to stick around long enough.
And our dream, of course, of having a springtime come soon with nice full lakes full of blue water. We're pretty lucky that way as well with all this snow. Well, we're going to call this a wrap on Game On in the Mighty 790 KFGO. Eric Johnson running the show. Make sure to stay tuned for 49ers versus Seahawks. Scott can take a break now after flying in from Vegas. His arms are tired. We can sit down here now and I don't have to drive anywhere. My office is now go upstairs and have dinner. So for Scott, myself, Gordy Tumbleson, Commissioner Surratt, and Nick Oliver, thank you for listening to Game On Hockey in the Mighty 790 KFGO. Let's do this again next week. It'll be a lot of fun to have you. So enjoy it. From the Nilles Law Firm studio, good night from the Mighty 790 KFGO. Good show, my friend.
All right, you fellas are all clear.